In a quaint town nestled in the heart of Ohio, 3 years had passed since Isla lost her husband. At 34, she was a strikingly tall woman with a warm complexion and a curvy figure. Living alone in her family home, she often welcomed relatives from the bustling city of Chicago during the summer months. This year, her sister had come to visit, bringing along her husband, Mark. Mark, in his 40s, was handsome and built like a man who spent his weekends outdoors. Since her husband's passing, Isla had kept her distance from men, but there was something about Mark's gaze that stirred something within her. One bright morning, as she prepared breakfast in the kitchen, she wore a light white blouse paired with black linen pants. Her hair was pulled back, yet a few strands had escaped, framing her face softly. "Good morning, Isla," Mark said as he entered the kitchen, his voice warm and inviting. A shiver ran down her spine at the sound. "Good morning," she replied with a smile, her heart racing as their eyes met. After breakfast, her sister suggested, "Isla, let's make some homemade salsa this year." "Of course, I always look forward to it," Isla responded enthusiastically. "Mark, I'd love your help too. I'm curious about how it's done." A flutter of excitement coursed through her at the thought of working alongside him. In the afternoon, they ventured into the backyard, where the sun shone brightly on that warm summer day. Isla wore a sleeveless pink blouse and a flowing black skirt, feeling a bit daring as she had chosen delicate white lace undergarments. She wanted to feel beautiful, even if just for herself. Mark was dressed casually in shorts and a t-shirt, his muscular arms and strong hands catching her attention. "How do we start?" he asked, his curiosity evident. "We'll begin by blanching the tomatoes," she explained, and as they picked tomatoes together from the garden, their hands brushed against each other. Each small touch sent a thrill through her. Standing side by side at the stove, she could feel Mark's warmth close to her, the scent of his cologne enveloping her senses. "You smell amazing," he said, glancing at her with a smile. "Is it the tomatoes?" she teased, her cheeks flushing. "No, it's you," he replied, his eyes sparkling. "Thank you," she said shyly, fully aware of the compliment's weight. She had taken extra care with her appearance that morning, and it felt nice to be noticed. "You look great too, Mark," she said, finding her courage. His eyes lit up at her words. "Thank you, beautiful," he replied, and the closeness between them felt electric. For the first time in a long while, Isla felt the warmth of a man's attention. She noticed his gaze lingering on her blouse, the neckline slightly open, and rather than feeling uncomfortable, it thrilled her. She felt attractive and alive. As the evening approached, they decided to make eggplant fritters for dinner. "I'll roast the eggplants," Isla suggested. "Let me help," Mark offered, and they moved to the grill outside. The flickering flames cast a warm glow on his features, making him appear even more handsome. "Is it getting hot?" he asked, glancing over at her. "A little," she admitted. "Maybe step back a bit?" He stepped closer instead, wrapping his arms around her from behind. The sudden embrace took her by surprise, but it felt incredibly nice. She could feel his body heat radiating against her back, and for a moment, the world around them faded away. The evening air in Austin was warm, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink. Isla felt a flutter of excitement as she stood in the kitchen, preparing dinner with Mark. It had been 3 years since she had felt the warmth of a man's embrace, and now, with Mark beside her, it felt surreal. "Being with you is wonderful," Mark said, his voice low and sincere. "It is for me too," Isla replied, her heart racing. In that moment, it felt as if the world outside had faded away, leaving just the two of them in their own little bubble. Mark was attentive, constantly checking in on her comfort. "Are you okay?" he asked, his brow slightly furrowed with concern. I'm very comfortable, she assured him, her cheeks warming under his gaze. It felt natural to be close to him, as if they had known each other forever. You smell amazing, he said, leaning in to place a gentle kiss on her neck. The rose-scented oil she had applied that morning seemed to please him, and she felt a rush of warmth at his compliment. You do too, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The masculine scent of his cologne wrapped around her, making her feel cherished. Mark's arms encircled her waist from behind, pulling her close. The unexpected embrace sent shivers down her spine, and she leaned back into him, savoring the moment. His warmth enveloped her, and for a brief instant, everything else vanished. Is it getting hot out here? He teased, glancing at her with a playful smile. A little, she admitted, her heart racing. Maybe step back a bit? Instead, he tightened his hold, and she felt his breath on her neck. You're such a special woman, he whispered, his voice low and intimate. Isla felt a surge of confidence as she turned to face him, their eyes locking. Being with you is incredible, she said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. It really is, he replied, his gaze softening. They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, time slipping away unnoticed. Hours passed, but they were lost in the warmth of each other's presence. It's getting late, Isla finally said, glancing at the clock. Yeah, but it was so beautiful, Mark replied, his eyes still holding hers. Unforgettable. I need to get dressed, she said, a hint of reluctance in her voice. I don't want you to go, he admitted, his expression sincere. As she slipped into her outfit, she could feel his eyes on her, a warm gaze that made her heart race. You look beautiful, he said, and she felt a glow of happiness at his words. Thank you, she smiled, her cheeks flushing. This was an amazing night, he said as she buttoned her shirt, his voice filled with warmth. It was very special, she agreed, feeling a sense of connection that was hard to describe. As they reached the door, Mark hesitated. Can we see each other tomorrow? He asked, hope in his eyes. Of course, Isla replied, her heart soaring. I didn't want to leave, but I have to. That night, as she lay in bed, Isla felt a happiness she hadn't experienced in years. The memories of their time together played in her mind like a beautiful dream. The next morning, she woke up with a smile, the sunlight streaming through her window. She took her time getting ready, choosing a lovely dress that hugged her figure just right, paired with a delicate red lace set underneath. She styled her hair perfectly and applied a light touch of makeup, admiring her reflection in the mirror. You look amazing, Isla, she told herself, feeling a surge of confidence. When Mark arrived, he greeted her with a bright smile. You look stunning, he said, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Thank you, she replied, feeling a rush of warmth at his compliment. Her sister was out at the market, leaving them alone in the house. I missed you, Mark said, stepping closer, his voice soft. I missed you too, she replied, feeling as if they hadn't seen each other in ages, even though it had only been a few hours. Last night was incredible, he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. It really was, she agreed, melting into his arms. The hug felt intimate and sincere, and she couldn't help but smile. Being with you is just wonderful, he murmured, and she felt a rush of happiness. From that day on, Isla and Mark seized every opportunity to be together. Whenever her sister was out, they would meet, sharing passionate moments that left them both breathless. Mark was a man who brought joy into her life, and he often told her, being with you feels like a dream. Isla felt the same way. She started wearing different sets of lingerie just for him, and he noticed, often complimenting her. You're such a stylish woman, Isla, he would say, and those words filled her with pride. She began to take more care of herself, indulging in long baths and wearing lovely perfumes. You smell incredible, he would say, pulling her close, and she would smile, feeling cherished and beautiful in his presence. Isla stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair and applying a light touch of makeup. She admired her reflection, feeling a surge of confidence wash over her. You look amazing, Isla, she whispered to herself, a smile breaking across her face. When Mark arrived, he greeted her with a bright smile that lit up the room. You look stunning, he said, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Thank you, she replied, warmth flooding her cheeks at his compliment. With her sister out at the market, the house felt like their own private sanctuary. I missed you, Mark said, stepping closer, his voice soft and inviting. Being with you is just wonderful, he murmured, and a rush of happiness surged through her. As days turned into weeks, Isla found herself enveloped in a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. The ache of loneliness that had lingered since her husband's passing began to fade, replaced by the joy of their blossoming relationship. Each compliment from Mark felt like a balm to her soul, reminding her of her worth. You're so special to me, he would often say, his voice earnest. I've never met anyone like you. And you're special to me too, she would reply, her heart swelling with affection. It was more than just physical attraction, they were building something real, something profound. One evening, as they sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Mark turned to her, his expression serious. What will happen when this vacation is over? He asked, a hint of concern in his voice. I don't know, Isla admitted, her heart racing. But I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either, he said, his gaze steady. I'm thinking of taking you with me to Chicago. Chicago? She echoed, surprised. You want me to move there? Yes. I want you to live with me, he said, his tone both hopeful and sincere. The idea thrilled and terrified her all at once. But my life is here, she protested gently, feeling the weight of her past. We can build a new life together, he replied, his eyes filled with promise. Just think about it. That night, Isla lay awake, her mind racing. She loved Mark deeply, but leaving her hometown felt daunting. Memories of her husband lingered in every corner of her life, yet the prospect of a new beginning with Mark was equally enticing. The next day, she made her decision. I'm coming with you, she told Mark, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Are you sure? He asked, his eyes widening with joy. Yes. I want to start a new chapter, she affirmed, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. Mark enveloped her in a warm embrace, his happiness palpable. You've made me so happy, he said, holding her tightly. I'm happy too, she replied, her heart soaring. Later that evening, Isla knew she had to tell her sister about her plans. I'm going to Chicago with Mark, she announced, bracing herself for her sister's reaction. Her sister looked taken aback. Are you sure, Isla? She asked, concern etched on her face. Yes, I'm sure, Isla replied, her voice firm. Then I support you, her sister said, a smile breaking through her initial surprise. Your happiness is what matters most to me. Isla felt a wave of relief wash over her. With her sister's support, she and Mark began to make plans for their future. Let's find a small apartment first, Mark suggested, excitement evident in his voice. Okay, whatever you think is best, Isla replied, her heart racing with anticipation. She had never been to Chicago, but the thought of starting anew filled her with hope. We're going to be so happy together, he said, his eyes shining. I hope so, she said, a hint of nervousness creeping in. But she pushed it aside, love could conquer all fears. I love you, Isla, he said, his voice sincere. I love you too, Mark, she replied, feeling the truth of her words resonate deep within her. As their final days in her hometown approached, they savored every moment together. "Will you miss this place?" he asked one evening as they strolled through the familiar streets. "Yes, but being with you is what matters most," she said, her heart full. In the end, it was clear to both of them, their love was worth every leap of faith. The day had finally arrived. As Isla packed her belongings, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This house had been her home for 3 years, but now she was ready to start a new life with Mark. "Are you ready?" Mark asked, his voice steady and reassuring. "Yes," she replied, determination in her tone. Tears streamed down her face as she left her hometown, but they were tears of joy. A new life awaited her. As they drove toward Chicago, Mark glanced over at her. "Are you excited?" he asked, his hand gently squeezing hers. "Very," she said, a smile breaking through her tears. "Everything is going to be wonderful." His touch calmed her nerves. With him by her side, she felt they could conquer anything. They spent the drive discussing their plans, dreaming of the future. "Let's get married first," he suggested, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Okay," she agreed, her heart racing at the thought. She truly wanted to marry him. It would be beautiful to formalize their love. When they arrived in Chicago, Isla was taken aback by the city's size and energy. "Here we are," Mark said, excitement evident in his voice. They went to the small apartment he had found. It was cozy and warm, filled with potential. "Do you like it?" he asked, watching her closely. "It's beautiful," she replied, genuinely impressed. Imagining their life together in that space filled her with exhilaration. That night, they shared their first evening together in their new home. "We're going to be together from now on," Mark said, his voice filled with promise. "Yes, I'm so happy," she replied, excitement bubbling within her. This new life thrilled her. The quiet life she had known was behind her now. In this bustling city, she would live a life full of love. "I love you so much," he said, his gaze intense. "I love you too," she replied, feeling the weight of her words. Their love would help them overcome any obstacle. As she adjusted to life in Chicago, Isla found it challenging but rewarding. Mark was incredibly supportive. "It takes time, but you'll get used to it," he reassured her. It truly did take time, but everything felt easier with him by her side. They began preparing for their wedding. "Let's have a small ceremony," Mark suggested. "Sounds perfect," she said, knowing that the most important thing was marrying him. On their wedding day, Isla was filled with joy. She wore a stunning white dress, feeling radiant. "You look beautiful," Mark said, his eyes shining with admiration. "Thank you," she replied, her heart swelling with happiness. Their ceremony was beautiful, and they were officially husband and wife. "Now you're Mrs. Isla," he said, and she smiled back. This happiness felt real and profound. Now, they were building a life together in Chicago. Isla had grown to love the city, embracing her new surroundings. She had no regrets about leaving her old life behind. She had made the right choice for love. Mark was a wonderful husband, always showing her love and respect. "I'm so glad I met you," he often said, and she echoed his sentiment. Their love story, which had begun with a chance encounter while making salsa in her hometown, had blossomed into a beautiful life together. Sometimes, small coincidences could change the course of one's life entirely. What started with a simple moment of connection while grilling eggplants had led them to this moment of marriage. Isla shared her story to show that women can find love again and experience happiness anew. Life always offers second chances. If anyone else had similar experiences, she encouraged them to share their stories. It took time, but Isla found herself settling into her new life in Chicago with Mark. The bustling city, with its vibrant energy and diverse neighborhoods, felt like a fresh canvas for their love story. They spent weekends exploring the art scene in Wicker Park, indulging in deep-dish pizza at local pizzerias, and strolling along the picturesque shores of Lake Michigan. One sunny Saturday afternoon, they found themselves in a quaint cafe in Lincoln Park, sipping lattes and sharing a slice of chocolate cake. The cafe was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of conversation. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting a warm glow over the wooden tables. "Do you remember our first date?" Mark asked, a playful smile dancing on his lips. Isla laughed, recalling the awkwardness of their initial salsa lesson. "How could I forget? You stepped on my toes more times than I can count." Mark chuckled, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "I was just trying to keep up with your amazing moves." Sure, she teased, nudging him playfully. "But look at us now. We've come a long way from that dance floor." "Yeah, we have," he said, his tone turning more serious. "I'm grateful every day that you took a chance on me." Isla felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'm the lucky one, Mark. You've made me believe in love again." As they finished their cake, Mark reached across the table, taking her hand in his. The simple gesture sent a rush of affection through her. They exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. "Let's make a pact," he said suddenly, his voice low and earnest. "No matter what happens, we'll always communicate. No secrets, just honesty." "Agreed," Isla replied, squeezing his hand. "We're a team." Later that evening, they decided to take a walk along the lakefront. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore created a serene backdrop as they strolled side by side, fingers intertwined. "Look at that view," Mark said, stopping to admire the skyline reflected in the water. "It's breathtaking." "Just like you," Isla said, her voice soft. He turned to her, a hint of surprise in his expression. "You really think so?" "Absolutely," she replied, meeting his gaze. "You've shown me a world I never knew existed." Mark stepped closer, the space between them shrinking. "I want to keep showing you new things, Isla. I want to explore life together." Isla's heart raced at the intensity of his words. "I want that too," she whispered, feeling the weight of their shared dreams. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Mark leaned in, brushing his lips against her forehead in a tender kiss. It was a moment filled with promise, a silent vow that they would face whatever came their way together. Days turned into weeks, and their bond deepened. They spent evenings cooking together in their cozy apartment, laughter echoing off the walls as they tried new recipes. Mark's culinary skills were improving, though Isla still teased him about his tendency to overseason everything. "Just a pinch of salt, not a handful," she would laugh, shaking her head as he dramatically sprinkled salt into the pot. One rainy evening, they curled up on the couch with blankets and popcorn, watching classic movies. The sound of rain tapping against the window created a cozy atmosphere, and Isla felt content, nestled against Mark's side. "Do you think we'll always be this happy?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark turned to her, his expression serious. "I believe we will, as long as we keep working at it. Happiness is a choice, and I choose you every day." Isla smiled, her heart swelling with love. "And I choose you." They shared a lingering kiss, the world outside fading away as they lost themselves in each other. In that moment, everything felt perfect, and Isla knew they were on the right path, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Subscribe to the channel,